I like being like well over prepared for what I have to do, because especially if I have kids in tow, which I don't always have kids with me, but I mean, a lot of times when I'm camping, I don't even, but I don't want there to be like that level of doubt of like, I'm coming back. I mean, if you're already like 4 hours from help, then not having a vehicle that like, or having a vehicle that's kind of like, yeah, I think we could do it, maybe. That's like a no-go for me. Like, I'm not doing it then. Like, I want it to be so confident that like I can go over this and I can come back no problem. Then I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
You want the capability. Like, it may not be something you're
I don't want to be a liability.
That's
I don't want to just like go over and get stuck and then be like, yeah, I'm 4 hours in the middle of nowhere and
can someone come get me?
Yeah, that's not fun for me. Or for whoever has to come pick you up.
Fasten your seatbelt.
All right, guys, here we go. Another episode. And today we have Micah from Overland Under Budget. And of course, we talk about trucks and social media, but we had great conversations about homeschooling versus public school and raising kids and even Legos. I'm not sure what's happening to my podcast, but we had a great time. Let's get to it. Okay, Micah. I actually have a really, the most important question of this entire podcast is going to be, on your story several weeks ago, you showed your audience a tiny little thing that your kids had found in the gravel. It looked like a prehistoric tooth. So, I mean, inquiring minds want to know, what was it?
A prehistoric tooth in my driveway. No, it is interesting, and the kids, I like encouraging the kids to look for, we go like mining on the hillside of the property all the time, so they were stoked to find that.
I love how interactive, or how much you present the interaction with your kids. I think that is, you do it very well.
If you enjoy watching 20 seconds of it, try like living with it all the time. Like I'm just recording every once in a while, but like they're just hilarious. Like kids are just so funny, and yeah, it's fun to share. I love sharing those type of moments, just in the same way I would share them with like my family. Just like, I can't believe he's doing this right now.
How old? What's the ages for your kids?
6, 3, and 11 months.
Okay.
And I was telling someone else earlier about how they were mentioning, oh man, kids, I have kids that are older and it just goes by so fast. And like, it's true. People tell you that all the time. And I was telling them how having 3 kids at 3 different ages like that, I have like a baby. I have like a toddler who's just out of toddler age, 3 years old. And then I have 6 who's almost 7, who's like, I mean, after 7, then it's like 10, 12, and then it's like, you know. So, yeah, it goes by super fast, but it's fun to see all 3 different stages. And, like, yeah, he's pretty hilarious. Yeah,
he's a good little partner for you when you're doing your videos.
Oh, he loves doing stuff. It's so funny.
Well, so I want to talk about your videos. So I think it's been fun I've been following you, watching you for several years now. We kind of share space in the overland community. But what I think you have really done well is you speak to, I mean, it's undeniable that our community there's a lot of tinkerers and creators, people who are a part of the community because they love to build. They love to create in this kind of mechanical, but still usable way. And I think like we were kind of chatting about before, there is an authenticity, and I find myself constantly coming back to this with either with guests or just with people I interact with. Authenticity is a huge factor, I think, in our current generation. We're also desperate to create content, and content that for success needs to go viral. And you have a very simple presence. And yet it is I find myself watching your content to completion almost every time. And I am not a tinkerer. I am not someone that is fascinated by building things on my vehicle. So congratulations on that. I think it's amazing.
That. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think, well, first, thanks. I appreciate that you think that and you watch all my content till the end, the very end. Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic for just that, like, actually being genuine. I think a lot of people, and you've heard, this was before the internet, people are just like, be yourself. Like, you can't be, the best version of you is you. No one else is going to be you type of thing. And like, stop trying to be someone else. And I think that maybe speaks to the fact that it is tempting to like try and be something else because you feel like you are who you are where you are. To be somewhere else, you've got to be someone different, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the only formula. I think that works for some people, but if you want to, like, especially in my case, like I'm just like working in the garage. Like I'm not doing anything like crazy, right? I'm literally just showing you what I'm doing. If I'm trying to be somebody I'm not for 2 years online, that's going to fall apart and it's going to like not be sustainable. So one, out of just like self-preservation, it's like you just have to be yourself because there's no way you're going to be able to keep it up indefinitely. And two, yeah, I think people, it's like that old classic example of like a used car salesman. Like you can tell when somebody's putting something on and they're not telling you the right, thing, and they're super excited for something they shouldn't be, or like you're like, what's really going on? Like, I mean, people, you just have that like innate sense where it's easy to connect with somebody who you feel like is being honest and who is like down to earth and who's like relatable to you. I think people think sometimes that they need to be, like I said, someone they're not, or like fancier or more exciting or have more going on than they really do. Where it's like, I mean, how many people do you know who are like that, who you like spending time with? Right. It's like you want to go get a coffee with like your friend and talk about nothing, and nobody's like, how's your coffee? Like, or like something like, crazy like you'd have on YouTube, like where they're just like always 100% or something. So yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that. I've heard that before, like, oh, you feel so authentic. It's like, oh, well, I appreciate it. I just try being myself. And
I think it's a huge compliment. I think it's, and I think you make a good point. I don't like anyone trying to break into the space. You have to find something that is true to you. Otherwise, there is no longevity in the project.
Yeah.
Whether it's a burnout or just you get found out that it's not real. And to live
maybe
under
after
that.
this interview.
We're going to learn.
He hired somebody to do everything.
He does none of it. Well, so what was this something that you have always, like, is building vehicles and tinkering in the garage always been a passion of yours, or tell me where it all began?
Yeah, I was trying to think where it began myself. No, I mean, I think as far as like where it began online versus where it began as myself are kind of two, like obviously growing up, I just have always been someone who likes building things.
Okay.
So I've said
where did that come from?
I think it's just when we had Legos. We got Legos when we were like 3 years old, 4 years old.
Okay.
Like for sure. And so, I mean, I've tried describing this multiple times because people asked me this before and I've give like these super long winded answers. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I even described it, but a bunch of things going on. One, grew up with my mom and dad spending a ton of time with us. My mom homeschooled us.
Okay.
There's 5 kids total. My dad was a machinist.
Okay.
So he's mechanically like inclined. Worked on cars when we were kids, worked on cars when he was a kid, had tons of motorcycles, had tons of bicycles, and just grew up like, I think he started working at a McDonnell Douglas in like when he was 14 years old.
So California.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Born in Torrance and moved like 20 times throughout the like 20 years, like a bunch of moves. So I don't know, all this stuff kind of comes together to where like basically we were just, most of the time we were at home or outside. And when we were at home, we were building Legos. When we were outside, we were like on a tractor, we were on a bike, we were on a motorcycle, we were digging, we were like building something.
Okay.
And so I think like all this stuff comes together to where I just like grew up literally always building Legos. Like we'd wake up before school to like build Legos, and most of the Legos we built were like Lego Technic, so like gears and shocks and axles and stuff like that. Yeah. So we literally were building like who could build the best suspension, like 4x4, who could build like a transmission. So like, yeah, I think I was like 8 or something, 11, and built transmission.
That's
or
normal.
Like, yeah. It's normal for some people, but I still have all those
normal.
Legos. Yeah, Legos.
For me.
Yeah, so I guess it's just something I'm like naturally interested in. I love building. Like anything that I'm going to personally use, there's like definitely something about being able to design and build and then interact with. Because that's just so satisfying. So that's how it shows up on my...
No, I think that makes perfect sense.
I told you it was going to be a long answer.
No, it's a great answer. No, it's great. You should keep it.
It's all over the place.
You should keep it that way, though. It makes sense. Because I think just because I don't have the mind that thinks that way naturally, I find and maybe this comes with age and like the appreciation of how other minds work. I think that's clear that you think that way because it just comes through in your videos and your content. But did you end up, because of that fascination, did you end up going to school for this, or was this completely on-site training kind of thing?
No formal training. Legos really. Legos like they teach you so much. And I'm not like, nothing I've done really you need to go to school for. Like I've not built a rocket ship or anything. It's very basic, but Legos are a great teacher for
Your
that.
Your stuff isn't basic.
Well, I mean, it's like square tubes but yeah, no schooling, Legos, and just being in a household that like really supported those type of interests. And then my dad obviously working on cars and growing up like just accelerated all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, let me back up because I not everyone knows what your current ongoing project is. So you have a Tacoma, but yours is it in 2001?
Yeah.
Okay, so about 20 years old, or over 20 years old.
22 years old, yeah.
So, and have you been the original owner for that?
No, I bought it in 2019.
Okay.
But I bought it from the original family. So
really? Okay.
Car buying people.
That's important.
They'll like that.
How many miles were on it?
208,000.
Okay, so it had been used.
Yeah, which like at the time I was like, I can't believe I'm buying something with 208,000. Now it's kind of like if you're buying an old Toyota truck, anything over 200 is like anything over 100 for a lot of other vehicles as far as value goes. But yeah, it has 200 and like almost 80,000 miles now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's getting up there.
So you've been building this
fall
one.
apart soon.
Well, they always need to be.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that when people are like, Toyotas run forever. I was like, yeah, because you keep replacing the parts.
Yeah. Well, every time I have the third gen, so a newer, although mine's a 16, so it's getting there. And if you just drove it on the highway all the time, it probably would look pretty pristine, and it would, the 7 years that I have on it wouldn't be anything. But when I get underneath it, I'm always like, oh yeah, it was on the salt beds, and that was when like Crown King destroyed that, and the rust that is eking in on all of the parts. I'm like, so when does all of this get replaced? Because it's gonna happen.
Get under there with a brush or something.
I know I'm overdue. But yeah, so if you use them like we go out and bash them on the rocks or honestly just gravel. People don't realize how destructive that is to your vehicle.
Or I mean, if you just think about how smooth a road is, where most people drive versus like driving on washboard, you're just shaking the car for hours on end. It's terrible.
So
it makes me nervous driving.
No, and that's okay. So because we know if while I'm not an extreme off-roader, I'm not out there like getting everything all up in the air all the time. Sometimes I can tell people are like, how bad could the Tacoma actually look?
Yeah.
But the amount of dirt miles I have, and to me, the dirt miles can be maybe over time just as destructive to maybe other components because I don't know if people know this, but all your screws will back out on just a bumpy gravel road, and sometimes we're on them for like tens and tens and tens of like now we're at 100 miles. We've been on dirt.
Yeah.
Have you had
any problems?
Yeah, dude. Yours being a home build.
Yeah. No, that is a top concern. Like, I think I went to, that goes into like literally while I'm making it, I'm like, all right, well, a lot of people are going to see this fall apart if it falls apart. So there's a little extra thought that goes into that part of it. I haven't had, thankfully, any catastrophic failures like that.
Oh, good.
But, it's all welded steel and stuff, so that helps a little bit. But, yeah, in the beginning, I wasn't sure how those pop-out, like, storage things were going to do. I thought maybe, those might just fall off. Like, if something was going to fall off.
That's going to be it.
But, it's been good for, like, 40,000 miles.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that says something.
I'm trying to think something else. I burned up my transmission.
Okay.
That was
I'm
a good
getting
one.
close to doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not going to last
foolish
forever.
Mistake. Yeah.
Was that on this most recent getting stuck?
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no. I've been really lucky. I mean, also the other thing is too, like, there's different levels of going off road, and like a lot of it, I don't do anything crazy, like nothing crazy at all.
Well, sometimes I think we're just limited with the vehicle. I know you probably have got a smaller wheelbase than I do, but sometimes I'm like, I'll roll with a like Jeep friends. And it's like, we have different vehicles. Like they just cannot go over the same obstacles or the obstacles the same way. So it's not a matter of like, oh, well, like this is more badass than this. Like I don't, there can't, like sometimes
Different
the vehicle is just not, it's not built for that.
Or sometimes I'm just like, I don't, like, what's the point of going over this right now? Like, I didn't,
we say that all the time. I'm like, I have zero desire to do an obstacle to like
do the
accomplish
obstacle.
the obstacle.
Yeah. I mean, there's different times like but not with the camper on. Not
Oh, no.
Me. Yeah.
Well,
I'll take the camper off and go play around or something like that.
Totally. I'm like, there should not be weight up there when you're doing this. It's not correct.
Yeah.
But if there's a really cool campsite at the end of it.
Yeah. If it has like a goal, like that, I think that's super fun too. It's like, and that's part of the whole thing is so fun. Like we're so fortunate to be able to spend that much time going specifically to like leave the house and go sleep in your car somewhere or sleep outside the car, like to a neat destination. So yeah, like that's definitely an aspect of it. Like I want the truck to be as capable as possible, like within reason, I'm not going to try and do like the Rubicon just so that I can camp at the end of it or something,
Right.
But there's definitely like, I like being like well over prepared for what I have to do, because especially if I have kids in tow, which I don't always have kids with me, but a lot of times when I'm camping I don't even, but I don't want there to be like that level of doubt of like I'm coming back. If you're already like 4 hours from help, then not having a vehicle that like, or having a vehicle that's kind of like, yeah, I think we could do it, maybe. That's like a no-go for me. Like, I'm not doing it then. Like, I want it to be so confident that, like, I can go over this and I can come back, no problem. Then I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
You want the capability. Like, it may not be something you're
I don't want to be a liability.
I
don't want to just, like, go over and get stuck and then be like, yeah, I'm 4 hours in the middle of nowhere. And
can someone come get me?
Yeah, that's not fun for me. Or if whoever has to come pick you up.
You owe them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that without having really put thought to it, I think that's kind of been the way I've built my Tacoma, and it obviously in a very different way. I don't have a custom camper on the back, but it's been sometimes with certain components overbuild. But that's because, like, well, if the opportunity's there to take advantage of that, upgrade
Deal.
like I'll do that. Well, am I going to use it all the time? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I know that, and I've been doing this long enough that there are definitely surprises on the trail all the time. Or things, sometimes you make mistakes and suddenly you find yourself in a spot, you're like, I did not read that correctly.
Yeah. I think it's important if you're doing, we're kind of going on a rant here, but I think it's important.
We do that here.
Let me tell you what's important here, kids, is if you're going to be out, like, doing anything, like, to just be self-reliant. It goes into a lot of other, like, your whole life, but we go super deep. But, if you're going to go, like, drive a vehicle off-road somewhere remote and go camping, then, like, yeah, you do that once or twice, like, ever. It's like, you probably don't need much because, like, the chances of something happening, like, adverse are very low. But if that's something, like, you love doing all the time and, like, you think a lot about, like, well, at least be ready. Like, have some extra gas in case you run out of gas. Have, like, the ability to change your own tire, have like a skid plate so you don't like, oh, I didn't see that rock and you broke your oil pan. Like my skid plates are like perfect, but I wouldn't do a bunch of the roads, even they're mild, without them, just because it's like there is that small chance of like kind of catastrophic failure.
Oh, absolutely. So, to the skid plate point, I put on steel skid plates and got, as the internet does, the internet was like, you don't need steel skid plates. Like this whole, it's like, it's not your vehicle. Wait till you put
aluminum skid plates on and it's like, you need skid.
But, and I was like, I'm not seasoned as in I've been doing this forever. So there are definitely moments where I'm like, well, maybe this was a little overbuild. I should have been a little more conservative. But literally went out and ended up doing a weekend photo shoot with Dometic years ago. And the guys found a mud hole and they were like, hey, let's just go through the mud hole a million times. We'll get the shot. So there's 3 of us and it progressively got more aggressive the more comfortable everyone gets, as we do when we're playing in the mud. And once you've gone through the mud puddle and it's ruined anyways, you're like, we're just doing this. But I had done a turn and gotten way off track and came back around. And in this one mud hole that I hadn't gone through before, there was a boulder.
Yeah, nice.
And it rutted out, so I dropped into the rust
Smashed it.
I smashed. I thought I broke my teeth. It was such a violent hit, and it was on the mid skid.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a solid dent in that steel.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, I would have cracked an aluminum, or
Yeah.
who knows what I would have done. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But if it hadn't have been there,
Yeah.
it would have been,
It hadn't been there at
game
all.
over.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
So for me, the armor a lot of times is there for the mistake.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to, for me, it's like the whole purposeful thing, like everything with a purpose, and like I love getting inspiration from work vehicles, from tractors, from expedition vehicles, things that are like built because like if they don't work, some money's involved. Like this is like not an option type of thing. And if you can kind of, one, you can cheat by like looking at all those things and be like, okay, here's what's actually important because these people are actually using it all the time, and here's what's not. But then two, like as you start doing it yourself, you can figure that out for yourself, like what boils down. But that's part of like the enjoyment for me too, is just thinking of it like as a whole, like how the whole thing works and the way I use it outdoors. So
I think that makes you a much more educated, like just participant, because now you know your vehicle so much.
At least
more
maybe the vehicle part. There's definitely people more educated than me on the outdoor part.
Well, I guess it's all a scale. I mean,
Yeah.
you have people all over the place, but I think I'll use myself as an example. While I try to get as much knowledge, and usually it's when things break that I get really into it.
You start learning more.
Because that makes sense. I have just a real hard time. And I should be learning a better way of doing this at this point in my life, but I haven't. But mechanically, things just, you can tell me all day. You can be the best instructor ever. It just makes
No
zero
sense to you?
sense. Like, and at this point, I'm just like, yeah, you need to stop talking because it's a waste of time. Like, I'm not going to understand anything. But when it breaks and I'm stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
And so the fixes have always been, well, never fun because it's always an inconvenience.
That's a little fun though, right?
Well, at the end of it, I think it's fun. It's definitely a better story. But going through that process of now having to kind of deconstruct the mechanics to figure out how to get myself off trail, that's where it's like, I understand how the brakes actually work now. I mean, something as simple as that, you can have a concept, but until it all falls apart. So the fact that you've kind of built so much of your vehicle.
Yeah, that helps.
I think that would help a lot.
Helps understanding what that sound is.
Yeah.
When you're
that
driving
weird
along.
popping
Yeah.
sound in your whatever
Yeah,
you had
totally.
recently. No, but I think that's good. So this vehicle was 2019. Was there a vehicle prior to this? Because I've only always known you to have the Tacoma. Was there builds happening prior to this?
Not an off-road build or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. No, because I think that was when I started. I mean, I had an Instagram before, but it was just like a personal account. Okay. Before that, I actually had I still have it. We had a Porsche Cayenne Turbo that I got on Craigslist and did a bunch of changes to that. Like blacked out all the trim, got different wheels, blacked them out, changed the interior, like bunch of like aesthetic changes again. Okay. That was awesome. That's another thing too, is like probably where like the beginning of the budget like thing became was that like it wasn't that I was always just on like a really strict budget. It was just that I had found that like there's a lot of changes you could do yourself to make like a very drastic improvement and change visually that are very easy to pull off, and they're simple. A lot of them have to do with like removing things instead of adding things. But yeah, so I modified the Porsche, and then I had a Ducati Monster and changed that completely, like aesthetically.
Okay.
And that was super fun, and that kind of just like ignited the bug for like changing my actual cars, because before that I'd like built Legos and done that kind of stuff, and then we had RC cars. Okay. Growing up as kids, we like, my brothers and I still laugh about this, but like day one they're just like getting changed. Like we're like, oh, there's like a local race at the hobby shop, and we like cut the treads off the tires to make the rolling resistance less and like get more contact patch, and like we sprayed him with WD-40 because we thought it would soften him up and like melt him. We like cut out the air box to like get more airflow. Like I made a skid plate out of like the bottom of like a plastic container, all these different things, and we took them to the race, and they just like, they were super fast but like totally uncontrolled, and like
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like it just started with like once I started like working on my own cars, the Porsche was the first one, then the Ducati, and then we had a BMW. Yeah, actually very different than like what people like the off road. Like we had a Porsche Cayenne Turbo and then a BMW. What was it? A 328D. Oh, I'm gonna mess it up. I can't remember the number, but diesel sport package, 4-door Beamer that I also like modified, blacked everything out, lowered.
But coming from a more automotive car world, not necessarily truck. Well, I know there are definitely overlaps. I don't find that to be as like that's not super uncommon. I do think that there is a huge. At least there was when I first started. I remember in Southern California, there was like, it was like the guys who maybe had gotten kind of turned off to some part of the car culture in Southern California, wanted to get out and just kind of see nature a little bit more. And all of a sudden there was this huge, and of course I remember there was kind of a joke in there about these guys moving over, but it was undeniable that like this was a movement towards.
Oh yeah. Like a big shift.
Yeah,
I think it's what like has like the spotlight for sure. Like I feel like there's people who are involved in whatever they're involved in because it's just like part of who they are. Mm-hmm. And like for me, I'm just like a vehicle mechanical person. Like motorcycles, I had dirt bikes, I had a Goldwing. I had a Ducati, I have a Porsche, I have a truck, I have like I'm just like I love vehicles, I love mechanical everything. Okay. And that's just part of who I am. And so like my account just features part of like what I'm going to be doing, whether or not I have an account or not. And then I think that there's also people who are into like hobbies, like maybe they loved like the modified like Honda car scene for whatever reason, but that was like their main thing. They weren't necessarily like just into cars their whole life, but they were just very into like this one little niche part of the culture or something, which is totally like there's no better or worse. But I think, it was interesting to see like a movement of like, that's just what has the spotlight. Like, that's what you see like on the magazine covers is like, is the overland builds, you know, like all the accessories on some off-road based car instead of like a souped up S2000 or something. And that's where all the money's moving to with like manufacturers and stuff. But I think it's
maybe a little off tangent, or off topic. I see it as we love to have teams and clubs and like kind of we alluded to before, like, you know, there's always a like more extreme may not exactly accept the full car camper individual, but I think everyone's on the same page in that like there's been this great push to just get outdoors.
Yeah, I like that part about it for sure.
Yeah, and I think once you kind of accept that as maybe everyone's baseline for why they're doing what they do, then then it doesn't really matter how it forms.
Oh yeah,
because it's like we're all trying to enjoy the outdoors in our own way. Doesn't mean we have to hang out all the time or all be best friends.
Or like
kind
each
of
other.
Thing. Yeah. We're human. I mean, I don't know. People are so funny.
I think people should just. I mean, I'm all for like people. I feel like to start not fights, but like talk about like what's better, what's worse, like within the car scene or who's like hardcore, who's real, like off road or whatever. It's like I think no one's like holding a gun to our head and like making us do this, right? Like everyone's just doing this because they enjoy it,
right?
Like who cares? Like I love that you enjoy doing whatever you're doing. Like that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like there is no winning and losing in doing something you love doing, especially when it's outdoors. Like I think being outdoors is such an important part of life.
Yeah.
If your hobby gets you outdoors more too, like I'm all for that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much space for all of us too. So it's not like it's so much. Well, and I mean, to that point, I know there's always like, well, you know, my favorite spot's being overrun, or it's, you know, someone put it on social media and now it's no longer a secret spot. Or
that's how I found it in the first place.
Totally. How did you find out about it? Totally. No, I get it. It's so
who'd been there.
The hypocritical ideology sometimes is like, guys, but we had, a couple of years ago, I remember like sitting around the fire and I think someone was kind of expressing that feeling. And someone else made a point of like, it's gonna push us out further then. If we're if we're all truly explorers, and I think at some level we are, it kind of all looks different. Like, if your favorite spot disappears, like, one, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But if you really do this and adhere to like the core, I don't know, pillars of what that is, like, go explore a new area. And I know no one wants to see their favorite place change. I get that.
I mean, but who hasn't heard that, like, growing up their whole life? Like, their grandpa talking like, man, back when I was a kid, this town was different. And then, like, his grandpa, like, it's just a theme that goes through, like, everything. Like, nothing stays the same.
Right.
And, like, yeah, I think it's just a topic people bring up to stand on.
Yeah. Well, and then I also think like some of that like tribalism comes into play, I think, where as humans, and you see it outside of our space all the time. And I think as humans, we just like to find people that think the same way we do. And it gives us confidence. And I'm totally guilty of falling into that for a variety of reasons. But I think at the end of the day, it's fun to just share. There's a commonality with what we do, and I think that there at its core, that is the community.
Yeah, I feel like if there's a commonality that I'd like to connect with other people, would be that, you know, getting outdoors is super important. As much as I love building everything, like that's like something that I enjoy. I totally understand that other people don't enjoy that as much, but there's something super healthy about just being outdoors lends itself to being healthier in general, like physical health, and it's so good for your mental health. And I think it's just like so important for kids growing up and stuff as well. It's just like spending time doing stuff outdoors where there's just less inputs. I mean, in a world where there's just inputs everywhere, is getting outdoors for me is like, that's a huge part of it. It's just like super grounding and just like decompressing. And
No, I agree. Do you often hear the comment, like, so do you actually use it?
No, actually I posted something about that the other day because someone did comment. I think it's maybe the only person who's ever commented.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, but I posted it anyways because I was like, but no, I do. I totally take that too, like, because I'm super, I feel like if I apologize to anyone if I haven't like stated that in the beginning on the account or all the time. It's like, I'm not claiming to be like, like my handle has overland in it, and like people on the outside would be like, overland under budget, like he's an overlander or whatever. I personally don't really identify with that, and like I don't consider myself like in that category at all. Like those people, I have never lived out of my car like for extended period of times. I haven't even done like a really long trip, like a month long overland trip. Like most of the stuff I do is that classic like weekend warrior stuff to like the extended trip, like every once in a while, like over a week or something. But I wouldn't consider myself like that. And my build reflects that. Like it's not an RV. It's like meant to like show up in the middle of the night in like another state after driving like 10 hours and have like a really comfortable place to sleep, and then be able to do the trails like I mentioned before without like hesitation, get to a cool spot, enjoy it, stay in the night, and be able to drive all the way back home. And that's like how I built it. Like a Sprinter van would be perfect if it was way smaller and could like, and was as capable as the little Toyota. Because that's pretty much how I use it. Like as a road trip car to get to like somewhere off road where like I want to have no hesitation to like use it. But I'm definitely not one of those people who are like, preaching about like living out of their vehicle. Well, I would love to sometimes, but I just haven't been able to, and I haven't. I don't claim to.
I think the weekend warrior is actually a huge part of the overall overland space, because I mean, the reality is, although I'm speaking to the under budget guy, it's not a cheap hobby in a sense.
Secrets out.
If you follow Micah, you can figure out how to do it on a budget.
Maybe in the beginning, not anymore.
But it can get out of hand easily. I mean, if you just start looking at maybe just the basic components for upgrades, suspension isn't cheap. It's not a cheap thing to throw on a vehicle. And it very quickly spirals, and you're throwing thousands of dollars in it.
Yeah.
There is zero shame in being like, oh, I'm a weekend warrior. And I'm not saying you're that at all. But when speaking to the community, it's like sometimes I hear that and I'm like, you got to understand, like, you are the community. Yeah. Because most people have to work.
Yeah. I think that some of the best trips I've been on have been really short trips. Yeah. Like, and those haven't even been like overland trips. Like, I used to, when I traveled like overseas, like in Europe and places like that, when I was younger, like I always thought in like weeks, like I need to go at least like 3 weeks to make like this $1,000 ticket like worth it, you know? And like I did a bunch of trips that were like very grand like that, like long. And they were amazing and I have tons of good memories. But then I also have like, I started going on trips that were like 3 and 4 days long. And I was like, some of those are my best memories too. And there is something about like the expediency of like the trip and knowing like it started, but it's almost over, that you're just kind of like sucking everything in and like trying to do as much as you can. And like, I think those are super valuable too. I tell people that all the time, like, you know, you don't have to wait until you have time to do like a massive trip to really get out there and make some amazing memories and experience a lot of really cool stuff. And that's part of why when people ask me too, like, do you ever use your truck? It's like, well, if you follow, you know that I use it all the time. But a lot of how I use it is honestly like around town. Like it's my daily driver for myself. When we're at the family, it just depends on where the car seats are, because I don't like having to move all the car seats all the time. But I'll take the kids like all the time. Like that's something we do like multiple times a week. We'll take the camper 20 minutes down to the beach. Like Pismo Beach, you can drive on the beach where we live, and they'll just play, you know, for an hour or whatever, inside the camper, outside the camper. We'll drive on the dunes, go back home, or there's trail systems that are like an hour from our house. We'll sometimes go at, you know, afternoon, make hot chocolates. They play in the camper. We're out there for like 2 hours and we come home. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, you know, big trips, short trips, it's all about getting out and like making those memories, and however you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're doing it right, or you're doing it well. Because I'm
doing it right, guys. Follow me.
But you do it well, and then it's captured well. And I just think back to that original point of authenticity, I think that really comes through in not only Instagram, which is my primary like window into this whole space, but you also are big on YouTube.
I'm getting bigger on YouTube. I still feel like YouTube's like my experiment. That's where like I put things. I'm like, that's not very good. Post.
I'm just starting out. We're gonna figure out how that works.
No, YouTube's fun.
It's all under the same name, though, right?
Yeah, it is. No, it's all very much. I mean, YouTube will be like more my focus this year too.
And is this something you're doing as like an income by, like, has it become a job? I guess is my actual question.
I mean, I'm in Birmingham right now. I live in California.
We're working on it.
Yeah, working on it. It's evolved. Like it's evolved from being what I was doing in my spare time to taking up most of my spare time, free time. There's no free time when you have kids. It's borrowed time. But yeah, it's this year and last year. This year will be a lot bigger than last year. But yeah, it's taking up enough time. It's producing enough income to make it actually like shift over like that. But it'll just depend on how we like structure our like family life and stuff, because my wife works full time. She's successful, so
that's, I mean, take advantage of those moments in life where like there is opportunity or ability to do those types of things, and you can always reverse it. You can always, you know,
you can always step away from it. I think it's important, especially if you are like a content creator, to like make sure that you're pursuing your like original passions and not pursuing the money making opportunities.
Oh, for sure.
At least for me. So,
well, I think back to that like authenticity, producing longevity in anything. I mean, the burnout is real. I mean, the burnout, you are struggling against the burnout even when you're doing something you love. Yeah,
there's times where I'm definitely like tired of like posting what I'm doing just because I'm trying to get done what I'm doing, like when it's a physical build project. But yeah, no, I think that's the only way you can like really survive. And take a break if you need a break.
Yeah, that's the beauty of when it's on your schedule. You can do what you. We're in a strange time too. I mean, because I think all of us. I mean, I caught a podcast recently that was highlighting. What is his real name? Mr. Beast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everyone knows him as Mr. Beast, so I should just
that's enough.
But I am, like a true old person, had no idea who he was. So sorry. But I had to be exposed to him through this podcast. And I was like, Rogan? No. Actually, I was through Lex's podcast.
Oh, Lex Friedman?
Yeah, he had him on. And so it ended up being, it's actually a very interesting podcast. But it was probably a little more interesting because I really had no idea who this kid was.
Yeah.
And I say kid because he is a kid.
Yeah, he's young.
So amazing. But at the end of the conversation, my takeaway was like, well, I've always known that social media and, this new media platform we have is here and it's staying and people are making money. It's like, we have just created a new industry
Yeah.
that has all these different facets and made all these new jobs. And there really isn't a pathway because you're listening to his logic and how he's created his business. It's just fascinating that we have this new way of doing things.
Yeah. I think it just broke the barrier, like the level of the amount of stops you had to make to like get something done.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to be in media before, you needed to get a media job, work for a media company, and there's like levels within that. Whereas now it's like, if you have something to create, you can literally create it and share it immediately. Yeah. So like there's way more opportunity and there's way more competition. But yeah, I think it's awesome. I think that it has created a ton of other options for people to make income, especially doing stuff that they really like doing, which I think is really important.
Yeah. I'm just always trying to balance the like wanting to maintain the level of enjoyment with tainting it with something that you have to do. Because I don't know, my brain is like, as soon as there's a, to the horror of my team, as soon as there's constraints put on anything in life or rules, I don't want to do this. Like
that's funny. I was telling my wife that the other day. I think creatively, you can't force creativity. The things that have gone most viral, the things that I like most, the things that I've like created that I am like most proud of, like out of my creations are all things that just like came to me and like I just kind of went after them in my own time, or they weren't like, I need to get this done at this time and it's got to do this and I just got to get it done. Like it's that freedom, the mindset of not having the constraints definitely lends itself to doing something creative for sure.
Yeah, more
especially
artistic, more.
Yeah, just more. Yeah, you kind of have to have that like spark of desire to like want to do it. I feel like to really make it work really well and make it come out well. And so yeah, when you put the constraints on it, it definitely takes some of the fun out of it.
Yeah, and it's a interesting dance, I think. And sometimes I don't feel like I have the right skill. Like, gosh, I can't get there mentally on some things.
Yeah.
But okay, my
take
team
a break.
Wants to shake me. Okay, so I don't know how many people actually know this because I don't talk about my younger years often. But I was homeschooled for my early education, so up until 5th grade. But I just found out that you were homeschooled as well, so we have a little common bond there. But I guess I wanted to ask you, what is your personal beliefs on the benefits of homeschooling for you specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I was homeschooled my whole life. I went through high school homeschooled, and so did my siblings too. So I think when it comes down to it, it's like there's good schools and bad schools. Mm-hmm. That's the case with public schools, private schools, and homeschools. Mm-hmm. Like your home becomes your school, your teachers, your parents. Like, so if you have a dysfunctional family, if you have, teachers who are not invested in you at school or they're not invested in you at home, all that kind of stuff goes into play. So but homeschooling is super important for me, at least right now, is just in controlling the inputs and the influences that are getting to my little 6-year-old's mind. They're like such precious little pure little individuals, and there's nothing positive about like being bullied about how you look or like anything like that, which I don't think my kids would be like that, but it's in those ages. I mean, even if you're a great looking kid, you might get bullied for how you look grow up just like having all these, those type of effects. Whereas like, I feel like the nice thing about being homeschooled, one of the major benefits is just being able to build like a confident individual with a great relationship with their parents. And they get through that like really treacherous kind of stage without any of that. And then for me, at least my personal experience has been like peer pressure is like something for me that just doesn't exist because I never had those like instances in school where I was just feeling like super peer pressure to do something. And I think your first tendency might be like, oh, well then you're going to like crack the first time it happens because you have no experience with it. But in reality, it's just like, no, I mean, say whatever you want. Like, I'm my own person. Like, I am fully confident in, like, my own decision. Like, I'm not influenced by that. I'm totally fine saying no to that because I'm just confident in like who you are. And I feel like if that's something, that's definitely something more than like the scholastic achievements, more than like the scholastic advantages of homeschooling, you know, and like what you can teach them. It's more about like the person that you can form in your own house.
Yeah.
Now, it's impacted me like extremely positively. Like, and it's definitely made me who, it's a huge part of who I am, having that experience and having been homeschooled and having those relationships, like such close relationships with all my siblings and my parents.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to impart that on my own kids too.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I can just see it as, you know, as growing up with my own kids, as my parents growing up with us, you know, we're getting older and like, it would just be, I mean, that's just like all that's, I feel like in life, that's one of the most important things is just your relationships with.
There's been studies. I mean, the health of the family, of the home, and I mean, I think you said it. Like you're blessed. You're very fortunate to have had that experience because I mean, circumstances that are outside of us happen. You know, that's life. But I mean, the chances of success really do start, you know, in that home structure and those early years, especially for our kids. And this is definitely me speaking. I don't have them, so I haven't raised little ones yet. Or yeah, well, geez, where'd that yet come from?
You know something we don't?
No, no, it's not in the plans. But
You can still have insights on the topic for sure.
yeah, and I think sometimes my insight is like maybe not the same value system as like an actual parent who's in the trenches doing the thing. But I do think that sometimes it's nice to have an outsider's opinion, or I can still assess things. But I do think that there's just a huge value for society. I don't think we really focus on family and those, you know, some of the traditional family things have been kind of like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. That's old school. And I'm excited to see kind of a change in that. And maybe we're seeing a change in a lot of ways. I think, you know, culturally and maybe in some politics, and politics is just broken.
I know nothing about it though.
But there's been kind of a shift away from, I don't know, this strange narrative of wanting to be so progressive and so forward thinking that I think we've kind of lost sight of, like, we want this goal and we think that if we're trying to be, you know, new and inventive and being, you know, all inclusive, and we want maybe these things that at their base level are good things for society, but we're kind of missing the work that goes into that, or I don't know.
Trying to get to it in a different way. Yeah.
So I think that some traditional values have been pushed aside in error to get to like, well, we want to look towards the future, and that's old. But the reality is there are certain foundational things that come out of the family that I think are, in the right situations, encouraged with the homeschooling environment.
Yeah, I think it comes to, again, it's just like whatever it is, what you make it. But homeschooling definitely gives you the opportunity to make it what you want it.
Yeah.
You know, to like have those positive, because I mean, I see it, you know, some days I'm doing the schoolwork with the kids and I'm like super distracted and I'm not paying attention and I'm not like giving them that experience that I could. But then you still have that opportunity the next day to do that, to be one-on-one, to like focus on what they're interested in. That's one of my favorite things too, is just with homeschooling, it's there's a lot of advantages in the fact that you can focus on one kid or two kids versus you're in a classroom. And that's nothing against teachers at all. It's just, that's how our system is set up. There's one teacher and there's a bunch of kids in the classroom. And even if that teacher's super invested, he still has 15, 10, 20 kids in his room. So how invested can you really be? And I think there's a lot of great advantages if you take advantage of them. I think it can also be negative for some people. Some people get homeschooled because their parents, you know, I don't know, they just doing something else and they pulled them out of school, or they don't want to deal with it, or so it can be negative. But yeah, I mean, to your point about family and just being important, I think family is super important for yourself, for your kids, but it's also obviously important for society in general, just to have like a cohesive, solid base for individuals as they grow up, you know, to come from a healthy place, a healthy home gives those people so many more advantages, and they're hurting so much less by the time they become adults, that they hurt other people less. If you think of it that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you can raise like a well adjusted, somewhat, you know, person who's just kind and, you know, able to interact with people and you know, takes care of people. And that's a huge advantage. And I think homeschooling just helps you be able to nurture that more.
So I know they're all on the younger side of school age. But I guess with your son, the eldest, are you able to incorporate what you do? I know you do, like you have to, I can already see it, but like, can you see that becoming a part of his curriculum, like getting into the garage and building and the more mechanics, hands-on stuff that is not possible in like maybe a public school setting?
Yeah.
Is that something you're planning with him?
Well, I mean, it's just, I think that goes back to like, depends on how you like view school. Like for me, like school is learning, right? Yeah. So like there's every minute is like school, you know? Yeah. So it is kind of what you make it like. And that's what's cool about being at home with your kids is, you know, you could be teaching them all day long. It could be just super fun. So yeah, I love including him. I've tried very hard to include him, and he loves being included too, which is super fun. So yeah, he knows his way around some tools.
That's great. And
he loves building too, like just naturally. Like I was telling someone else earlier about how Legos had such a big influence on my own building in childhood and stuff. And so I was super excited to not push it on him, but like make it very available and hope that he would get into it. And he's just like in the last year and a half is just like addicted to Legos, and he's amazing. Like the stuff he makes on his own is like amazing. Like just so cool. Fun to watch. And it's kind of a dream. He'll like ask me all the time, like, Dad, do you want to build Legos and stuff? So yeah.
So you kind of mentioned it a little bit in that explanation, but like, so do you and your wife kind of co-teach the kids?
No, she does a lot. If she's listening to this, she'll be like, hey, I do most of it, which she does. She does do most of it. Yeah. And they're still young, you know, so like what we're doing with them isn't like super, super in depth. And I should totally give her way more credit than I have already on the podcast, but she's the one who set up the curriculum and found it, and she does most of their school. Okay. But I do some of the subjects with them, or depending on how like the day balances or what I'm doing with them and stuff. Yeah, no, my wife really does do so much. I mean, for the whole family, she's amazing. We've been married since 2010, so it's almost 13 years.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, I definitely married up, and then she is like, as much as I'm like the creative, like I like to think creatively and like build stuff and like do photography and I'm like all this kind of stuff, her strengths lie in like she has that too, but she's way more like disciplined with organization, and like she's very goal driven and very like, so we're like a good balance. Like sometimes we butt heads because we're so different in those ways, but her like implementing this like schedules and making sure they have like all their subjects, and then just throughout the house she does all the bills and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
lets you have that creative outlet. Go out in the garage.
Yeah,
build your
definitely. Which I'm glad, because I think some bills would go unpaid if I would forget about them.
And I would assume, I mean, it sounds like a great partnership. So I would assume that you being out working on projects in the garage, I feel like sometimes there's that
tension.
What?
Tension, I said.
Or maybe tension, but like sometimes it's like, oh, he's always in the garage. He's never in the house. But I have a feeling it's not quite that type of a interaction.
It is sometimes. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, no, I think, no, yeah, I mean, that's definitely like, I think it's good to share that too, because I think people see, a lot of times people just see the rosy side on social media and stuff. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, I'd love to do that. I don't have time. Like, how do you find the time? Like, and yeah, sometimes I think I am a bit obsessive on like things I really enjoy doing, and I just get totally worked up and I want to spend so much time on it, and I probably don't spend enough time sometimes inside, you know. Okay. So there's definitely, it's a balancing act. Like I don't want to sell that any other way, because we talk about that all the time, and that's like a big focus this year is for us is like figuring out where to put energy and time, and like we've hired like someone to help with my mom to help with the kids, like at least once a week, like for a certain amount of time, just so that I can like get to emails and things like within the social media world, like opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely shouldn't be understated. It's definitely a balancing act, especially for both of us. Like we both she works from home. And then the stuff I'm doing is at home or traveling. So
it's a constant reassessment of the situation.
Yeah.
Like things change and everyone's can be fluid up until a point, and then like we need to
well, yeah, you only have so much time, and I think especially with kids, it's like you don't want to be with your kids, but somewhere else, like you don't want to be distracted. That's not good for them, not good for you, and like you're wasting your time and stuff. So, but yeah, my wife is beautiful and amazing.
Our partners help us do what we're doing.
Yeah, she's watching the kids right now.
Thanks, wife.
Yeah, she's probably cleaning up a bunch of messes and stuff.
They're at that age. There's going to be messes.
Oh, it's inevitable.
So you mentioned kind of moving forward, looking at like this next year and the goals you want to set personally. If I know you're working on things for this next year. Is there any teasers we can get for what you're doing in this next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different things. There'll probably be a new build. Okay. Possibly. I'm not sure what it'll be yet, or if I can really, if it'll come around or not. Okay. But yeah, that's a possibility. It's a totally new build. Would be really fun for myself. And then it just depends on what I can fit. I definitely have plans to do a lot more like trips. Okay. So I'm hoping to be able to do like one trip a month now, like an actual trip somewhere. Okay. So that's something I'm putting on the schedule, and you'll probably see me do a lot more. I'm kind of like really trying to work myself into the place where I'm basically getting paid to just do exactly what I want to do. Like go do stuff I want to do, like go on trips and stuff. So I'm working with some really cool companies that are like making that happen. So just fun adventures. I've planned to focus more on YouTube this year. You'll still see me on Instagram, I'm sure, a ton, because it's fun too, and it's the easiest thing. Yeah. But I definitely have a focus on doing more long form stuff and more adventure videos and more builds and stuff like that on YouTube. I think overall YouTube, I enjoy the content on YouTube more. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy the pacing of it. Mm-hmm. And like just it doesn't feel as like, if you're on Instagram all the time, I'm sure people can relate to this, even if you're, you don't have, regardless of your account size, if you're just on social media all the time and you chat with people on social media all the time, and then you take a break for like a week and you're like, dang, I didn't realize how much space was being occupied in my mind with like conversations I was having about nothing with a bunch of people I know nothing about. And you're like, I don't think that's really part of my life I want to keep including. I like in YouTube, it's like, I feel like it's it's way reduced. Okay. Like it's a lot more like making, at least for me, you can make it whatever you want, but at least for me, yeah. That's what I like YouTube about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sometimes Instagram is, they add one more feature that I have to be involved in. That's like, guys, stop it. I was good with the old version. What's happening?
I think it's
spoken like an old person, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, more stuff on YouTube, possibly a new build, definitely more adventures, a lot of fun stuff. Okay. Yeah.
And it's all under Overland Under Budget, right? Is that the name for across all platforms?
Yep. Website, Instagram, YouTube. Okay. Yeah, no one else had that.
It's a great. It encapsulates your I don't know, just your vibe perfectly. So
I'm a budget guy.
You're a budget guy. We need those guys. It gets crazy real fast. Well, thank you so much for traveling all this way. I know yesterday was a bit of an adventure for you. So
yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, like, I think this is like one of those things that I'll never never feel like normal. It's just like, wow, been invited to be on a podcast in a different state. Oh. It's interesting how like things just come around. So yeah, thanks for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
You have always been someone who's been just that I don't know, I just look to as like solid in the community. And maybe you fooled me. No, I'm kidding. But I think there's something to be said about your presence in the community. And I know this last year, it seems like you've really there's been you caught fire, and then this year even it exploded a little bit more for you, which is it's exciting to watch that. But you feel solid to me. And I think we promote authenticity here. And you just have that with your presence. So really thank you for bringing that to the community, because it's important. I think it's so easy there's so many individuals out there creating maybe a little beyond what is authentic, and it's fun.
I think just be yourself. Like, if anyone's listening to this wondering what, like that type of thing, is just like, be yourself, be comfortable being yourself. Don't like do anything for other people, and just like focus on what you really, what really interests you. Don't like try and go down a path that's like because you think it's going to be popular or because you feel like other people will like it. Like, be yourself, and that's going to be the best version of whatever you put online and stuff. So
absolutely. Well, thank you very much for spending your day with us.
Absolutely.
And sorry, Glover, we ran out of time.
We'll get you next time, Mike.